say it means attend at all times when attendance is required by the school, so that the offence is committed by any failure to attend during those times.
I'm a little shell-shocked at how prepared they were just to accept that that's their argument, that a child who's a minute late to school on one day but attends on every other day, the parents have committed a criminal offence, and that's shocking.
Well, while much of this case is about technicalities, John Platt says there is also a broader principle at stake here. Should the final say about a child's attendance at school lay with the parents or with the state? And there's also the issue of consistency. Some councils issue thousands of fines a year, others barely any. Most parents don't challenge fines because they think holidays outside of term time are so expensive, it's worth just paying. So many hope the outcome of this case will provide some clarity on those issues, but judges aren't expected to outline their decision for a number of months.
Emma Wilkinson reporting there. In other news, police investigating the death of a woman in Portsmouth say she died as a result of stab wounds. 36-year-old Nadine Burden's body was found at an address on Toronto Road just before midnight on Saturday. 2 women have been arrested and are being questioned by officers.
A convicted murderer who was wanted by Dorset police for breaching his licence conditions has been found. 43-year-old Jamie Frater from Weymouth handed himself in to officers in Bournemouth and has been recalled to prison.
Rail passengers travelling to and from London Waterloo faced severe disruption this evening after 2 people were hit by trains earlier today. All lines were closed following the incidents between Wimbledon and Surbiton. Reduced services are running on some routes.
Well, as the South East Coast Ambulance Service struggles to cope with a recruitment crisis, there are concerns over patient safety and staff well-being.
The Trust is unable to fill around 1 in 6 positions. Staff overtime is being cut back to save money and stress levels are rising.
One man from Gosport in Hampshire told us his mother had to wait 5 hours for an ambulance after a GP requested one. And a CCAM chaplain says he can testify to the immense pressure his colleagues are under. Sarah Saunders has our report.
Pensioner June Marsh recently had to wait 5 hours for paramedics to arrive. That's an hour longer than the Trust's own maximum waiting time target for her. Her home is just across the road from the ambulance station. Sadly, June died a week later.
I wrote to the administration at William Harvey, but they've not actually replied to my emails or a letter. Basically explaining why it took that amount of hours for an ambulance to come 150 yards to take her into hospital.
At the South East Coast Ambulance Service, there are currently almost 150 posts unfilled. That's 1 in 6. And according to FOI figures, 172 frontline paramedics took at least 1 day off because of stress last year. Tim Parsons is a chaplain for CCAM, offering pastoral support to paramedics. He says he's seen firsthand the immense pressure they are under.
Yeah, the pressure is extremely high. They're having to deal with more than one issue at a time, which of course puts strain on them, I guess, psychologically and physically. They're expected to be strong for people, which of course, obviously in that position you do expect, but however, you cannot be in 2 places at once. And I will emphasise the pressures they're under. They are absolutely professional.
CCAM managers have launched a recruitment drive, searching for candidates as far away as Australia, after the National Audit Office revealed, like many ambulance services, CCAM is still failing to meet target response times for the most urgent 999 calls.
We need more people and more money. It's down to whether the government's prepared to put in sufficient funds to deliver the sort of response that the public demands and deserves.
Union reps also say that well-intentioned CCAM efforts to tackle the issues could be affecting patient care. Critical care paramedics who would normally be sent to the most serious incidents such as car crashes or cardiac arrest are now being deployed more generally. So they say patients with the most serious need may not be getting the care they once received. The Trust says paramedics are working hard to meet additional demand for services and urge people to only call 999 in an emergency. Sarah Saunders, ITV News.
Well, CCAM wanted to emphasise that Mr Marsh hadn't called 999 but instead had gone through his GP.
However, that ambulance referral should have taken less than 4 hours, but it took 5. And they've admitted that ever-growing numbers of staff are suffering stress-related illness. 108 in 2014, 132 the following year, and in 2016, 172 staff on leave.
They have assured us that they are working hard to support their staff's health and well-being in light of the extra demands.
Now, this is the moment a man from Storrington in Sussex caused a 3-car crash on the A27. Lee Allwright overtook a BMW on a slip road near Shoreham. He then braked and stopped ahead of the X3. His actions caused a bus to hit the BMW, which then collided with Allwright's Peugeot. The 29-year-old was given a 2-year driving ban.
Winchester Cathedral is opening its doors to the public tonight so they can see what goes on behind the scenes. They'll get to see the work that takes place to maintain and conserve the building and its traditions.
You're watching ITV News here in the Meridian region. Coming up, food for thought from a TV man famous for his big building projects.
Hi, I'm Nick Knowles, and coming up I'll be talking to you about borlotti beans and we're just trusting your instincts.
For more on all of our stories, you can head to itv.com/Meridian. Remember, you can give us a call or get in touch via Facebook or Twitter.
Now, at the moment across the south, there are over 1,200 people waiting for a life-saving organ transplant.
Well, let's take a look at some areas in the Meridian region. There's 94 people on the transplant list in Buckinghamshire, 77 in Oxfordshire, 183 in Hampshire, 65 in Dorset and 75 in East Sussex.
Well, it's why the NHS is constantly campaigning to raise awareness of the importance of being on the organ donor register.
Well, among those supporting the campaign are 2 men who have been good friends for a long time and know what donation can mean. Jackie Bird has their story.
Theirs is a friendship that goes back almost 30 years. But neither Paul Allen nor Dave Mackenzie thought that this photo of them standing underneath the sign "You'll Never Walk Alone" would end up being the most poignant. On Christmas Day 2015, Dave began dialysis. A disease of his kidneys had damaged them so badly he needed a transplant.
I don't think you really notice it because it becomes routine, and it's not until that's done that you suddenly realise, wow, just going to bed, going upstairs, brushing your teeth, getting into bed, you know, that all of last year, that was anything between an hour to an hour and 10-minute exercise, you know, and that just makes a massive difference to you and to the family, I guess.
It was then that his friend Paul stepped up. A battery of tests followed, but he was proved to be a match.
My first feeling was delight and relief that there was a solution there for Dave. And then it became really, really real, sort of like, okay. Because actually, as I said, dialysis was going okay. I thought I was coping well. I probably wasn't coping as well as I thought, if I'm really honest. My wife would probably tell you something similar, but then all of a sudden, wow, you know. But pretty humbling to when someone says, I'm relieved that I'm a match and I want to do this. It was sort of like, wow, okay, let's get it done then. 2 weeks.
A host of thank yous have come from all sides to Paul, but the realisation of just what he'd done came from Dave's wife Jane and their 3 children in a card just after the operation.
They're the words of children that, as they said, they've got their dad back. So that, to coin a phrase I used earlier, that's pretty cool. Just take a second and think about it and pop that card in your wallet or sign on to that register, because you can do such good things. So just take a minute and do that.
More details on our website. A Sussex MP is calling for the term honour killing to be banned. It's often used to describe murders committed in the name of culture to protect a family's so-called honour.
Indeed, the MP for Wealdon, Nusrat Ghani, says honour killing is nothing more than a name for domestic violence, which causes great damage, particularly in some Asian communities. She made the argument in a bill presented to Parliament today.
Nusrat Ghani joins us now. Nusrat, thank you for talking to us. First of all, why do you feel so strongly about the term honour killings?
I think honour killing diminishes the abuse that's meted out to the victim, and it actually emboldens the perpetrator because it's the language they use to coerce the victims in not seeking support.
Now, we know there is no honour in honour killings or any killings, and most people know that. Do we really need to spell it out?
I think it's important that we use the appropriate language that fits the crime. There is no need to use the word honour when the crime is murder, battery, assault or rape.
Tell us, how much of a problem is this kind of domestic violence in the South East, and what communities does it affect?
Well, I work across my constituency and with my Police and Crime Commissioner dealing with domestic violence. And there's a fantastic project called Drive, which is about rehabilitating the perpetrators. Over the last 5 years, 11,000 incidents of so-called honour crimes have been recorded. And more work has to be done in why so many incidences are taking place, what support is given to the victim, and how many convictions are also handed out as well. It worries me that we're dealing with domestic violence for one set of victims, but not for everyone in our society.
Well, one of your fellow Tory MPs says this bill is misguided in that men are often victims of so-called honour killings, but your bill is only about women, is that right?
No, well, my bill title is a very long bill title, but in my speech I've mentioned men as well. I'm talking about all victims of domestic violence, all victims of aggravated murder, whether it takes place in the UK or overseas.
Nusrat Ghani, thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you.
Well, also in Parliament today, of course, our region's MPs have been taking part in one of the most important debates for decades, all about the government triggering what's known as Article 50.
That's the first stage in us leaving the EU. If the government gets its way, the official process of leaving could start in about 5 weeks' time. Here's our political correspondent, Phil Hornby.
7 months after this,
let June the 23rd go down in our history as our Independence Day.
This.
European Union Notification of Withdrawal Bill, second reading.
This wasn't an argument about in or out, the government said. The point of no return was last June.
We asked the people of the UK if they wanted to leave the European Union. They decided they did.
Every Tory MP in our region will vote with the government, and for one political career, it's come just in time.
If the country had voted Remain, I would have respected the country's judgment, and I would have not sought re-election at the next general election, because I see no point in this puppet parliament. This parliament full of views and airs and graces that cannot change the laws, change the taxes and spend the money in the way the British people want.
The official Labour line is to support the government too, but they've agonised and they're split.
I'm going to vote against this government bill. Brighton and Hove, the city I represent, has got 8.5 million tourists that come to it every year. It's got 2 universities with academics and students from across the European Union. And we're an economy that has the head offices of American Express and EDF. Let's challenge the government to make sure that all of the ducks are lined up so that when we do trigger Article 50, there is a destination for our economy.
But Oxford East Labour MP Andrew Smith says he will vote with the government, even though most of his constituents supported Remain. The government will win the big vote tomorrow night, and in about 5 weeks' time, we'll definitely be on our way out, and the negotiations can begin. That's when the hard work will really start. Phil Hornby, ITV News, Westminster.
One of Winchester's most historic buildings could be under threat if it doesn't receive over £100,000.
Yes, severe flooding in 2014 damaged the City Mill structurally. Those who look after the building say without the money it could collapse. Richard Jones has been to see why they are so worried.
January 2014 and the River Itchen in full flow surges through the 1,000-year-old City Mill in the centre of Winchester, flooding the area where visitors usually stand. The force of the water was so powerful that it overtopped a sluice gate designed to control the wheel. That meant volunteers couldn't stop it, and it ran constantly for 3.5 months. So the wettest winter most of us can remember. The river's there. What happens here?
So we were flooded for 3.5 months. The river level rose and it came up to about neck height in here.
So what damage down here? I guess beams like this, problems here?
So most of this material is medieval in origin, and it's now been found to have completely structurally failed and needs to be replaced.
So what's holding this up now?
We commissioned a series of surveys, and as a result we've had to put acro props in to keep the building standing. We now need to raise £125,000 to do this work as urgently as possible to try and keep the building open.
So and without those?
The building wouldn't stand.
In terms of the force of nature, were you astonished by what you saw?
Absolutely. Estimations are that there were 13 cubic tons of water passing through this building at any one moment. So, yeah, it was really scary.
The mill is popular with tourists and with school children from the city because many can walk here to visit. They learn how for centuries water mills provided the flour that made our bread, cakes and biscuits.
It's all about social history. It's about seeing how milling was carried out in every village until the Victorian era, using the power of water or using wind. So there's environmental side to it. They learn about where their food comes from.
Fundraising begins this weekend and special events are being held throughout the year. The Winchester Friends of the National Trust have already donated £5,000 to the appeal. Richard Jones, ITV News, Winchester.
Well, on to sport now. 3 of our teams are in action this evening. In the Premier League, Bournemouth host Crystal Palace. Southampton are at Swansea. While in the Championship, very important game, Reading travel to Birmingham City.
And in the FA Cup draw, Oxford United found out they'll be travelling to Premier League Middlesbrough in the 5th round next month. The transfer window closes at 11 o'clock. Southampton have already signed goalkeeper Moué Hassan from Nice on loan and are expected to pay £14 million for Italian striker Manolo Gabbiadini.
Bournemouth, meanwhile, would like Chelsea keeper Asmir Begovic. Reading will take West Ham's Reece Oxford on loan. Brighton have signed Glenn Murray on a permanent deal, and Arsenal's Chuba Akpom will sign until the end of the season.
I'm just coming back from my injury, 4 months out, and then just gaining fitness, and I spoke to the boss, Arsene, and he said it will be perfect for me to go out there and get some games. And I spoke to my agent, spoke to my family, and found out Brighton were interested, and I thought it would be a perfect place to come to.
Now, he started his career working for us in regional news 26 years ago. Since then, he's become a big household name thanks to his house building show, DIY SOS.
Now, recently, presenter Nick Knowles became a vegan, and now he's got his first cookbook out. Jonathan Wills went to talk to him about his first job in television and to find out exactly what inspired this change in diet.
I've always cooked in the family. I've always loved cooking. I cook with my sons, my daughter, I cook with my dad. So cooking is kind of an escape for me. Here we go. Here's a borlotti bean soup that I've knocked up.
What's interesting as well, you're clearly into this as well, aren't you? Because I think many people would say, yeah, it's just about selling books, or isn't it? But you're into it though, aren't you? This is kind of...
I had someone said the other day, there's a couple of mistakes in there, there's a couple on the recipes, there's a couple of mistakes in there. Are you sure you wrote the book? I said, surely the fact there are mistakes makes you realise that it was me that wrote the book. Are you thinking of going vegan yourself?
Well, it's interesting because why vegan?
We are of a similar age.
We are, aren't we? I know.
And you get to a certain age, you go, do you know what, I've been the same shape all my life, and all of a sudden I've lost track of it, and it's getting away from me. And that's the thing, really, is trying to eat something that's a bit healthier. But I didn't want to go to that whole sort of, I don't know, it's a bit weedy, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Salads and all that kind of stuff. And I wanted something a bit more solid. And I went away to Thailand, realised I could actually improve my health dramatically, but I wanted to eat better. There was no doubting the health benefits of actually going to a more plant-based diet. You couldn't argue with that.
Let's just leave the food for a second and talk about Nick Knowles, the person as well, because actually, one of the great things for us is that you actually started life on ITV, didn't you? ITV Regional News at that.
Regional News, yeah. In fact, I used to be behind the scenes and used to be a day producer on the news programmes. So I started doing a travel report, which is kind of daft because if you think about it, travel reports are no good to anybody. You should be on the radio when you're in your car. Being on television doesn't make any sense at all, but I used to have a laugh with it. And people started asking me to do more and more on-screen stuff.
Spock's 16 weeks old now, and he's about ready to go back to his family, perhaps in another couple of weeks. In the meantime, he and Puddin are practically inseparable.
So I started doing more presenting and ended up drifting away from news and into current affairs and ended up doing quiz shows and all kinds of weird stuff. But no, news was where I started out, and regional news at that, yeah.
And since then, as you say, you talked about the quiz shows and DIY SOS is what we know you so well for as well. But it's also that you'll try anything. You know, the food is one thing, but you went and did a film last year as well.
Yeah, right, movies and all kinds of. I just think in life, you only get one go at it. I think, unless you, of course, believe in reincarnation, in which case you get several goes at it. But you might come back as a stick insect, so you might not be able to make movies. My view is have a go at everything that you get the chance to, and live a life less ordinary, and just go and try stuff. You know, we are a very dynamic people. I think we can. There's a massive community in this country. We see it all the time on DIY. I think we're capable of amazing things, and I think going forward we're going to do amazing things. I think community is coming back. Help somebody next door, do something with somebody makes you feel good, try something new, go and, the world is your lobster, as Arthur Daly used to say.
And what next for you? I mean, is there anything left
Space
on your
travel
list?
I'm thinking of trying next.
Try the only thing you haven't tried.
No, there's more movies. I've been commissioned to write some more movies now. We're going to have more DIY. That's commissioned for another year, so we're going to be making those. I've got a mental health documentary coming out later this year. So, yeah, we're trying new things. I'm about to go off to Japan to try and do a travelogue kind of thing over there called The Accidental Hippie. So that's going to be interesting to see whether that works.
Can't entice you back onto ITV Regional News then?
Because maybe one day. You never know. It's not out of the question. I don't think they'd have me anymore.
No, I think they would. It looks fantastic. Thank you so much for your time, Nick. Really nice to meet you.
Lovely to meet you. Let me get you a spoon.
Jonathan Wills there.
Do you know the really annoying thing about Nick Knowles? The really annoying thing is he's barely changed over the years.
I was going to say.
I've got a new book coming out as well.
Have you?
It's all about weather forecasting. I'm sure I could
Bestseller.
do much better than all this rain, rain, rain. See what I mean? Philippa Drew.
From blizzards to pool, driving through Europe. Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
So some very unsettled weather to come our way for the rest of this week. Plenty of rain on the cards at times, some strong winds accompanying that rain. But despite all of that, it will be fairly mild for the time of year. So we can see just what's been going on today. Low pressure very much in charge. Outbreaks of rain affecting much of the UK, and certainly we were no exception. But today's rain will gradually work its way northeastwards through tonight and into tomorrow morning. So some respite for a time tomorrow, but do make the most of it. As you can see out towards the west, further spells of rain poised to move in, setting us up for a very unsettled few days ahead. But back to this evening and overnight, more rain feeding up from the south and west, persistent for a time, heavy in places as well. But of course, underneath all the cloud and rain, another mild and frost-free night. Temperatures for many of us no lower than around 7 or 8 degrees. So tomorrow morning, a mild start, a cloudy start and a wet start for many of us as well. But through the morning, as I said, that rain continuing to push its way north and eastwards. So for the afternoon, things do look a lot better. Certainly a lot of dry weather on the cards, and for the lucky few, maybe even some bright or sunny spells coming through. Still fairly breezy though, especially down along the south coast, but again, temperatures doing well for the time of year, reaching double figures with highs tomorrow around 10 or 11 degrees. So a quick look at the high tides for tomorrow, then you can see just the one there for Poole, 11:53 in the morning. And then looking ahead to the next few days, well, as I said, it all stays very unsettled. Further spells of rain to come our way, some strong winds at times, something to watch out for, particularly on Friday. The Met Office do have a warning out for strong winds on Friday. The risk of some disruption to travel and some damage to buildings and trees. Do take care if you're out and make the most of any brightness you do manage to see.
Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
And in just a moment, we've got the ITV Evening News with Mary Nightingale.
I shall have our late news, so do join me if you possibly can. But for now, from the team here at ITV Meridian, thank you very much indeed for watching. Try and stay dry if you can. From all of us here, take care.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.